We got some real good things that I think that we're going to be able to do to really enhance this ministry in ways that we hadn't been doing necessarily in the past. So I'm really excited about that and going to share some things with you all as we continue to talk about our faith, as we continue to talk about the mission and ministry and vision that God has given us here at the Great Rodman Street Church. So I am taping this meeting so I can send it to you all so you can go back and look at it, because sometimes I know I talk a little fast. So I tape this so that you can go back and look at it, but also it'll serve as an archive for us as we continue to train and develop. So let's begin with a word of prayer. God, we thank you for this time that you've allowed us to gather. We invite the power and presence of your spirit to rule and abide in this session on tonight. I thank you for all the persons who are here. We thank you for being in the comfort of our home or wherever we are. And we pray, God, that you would bless our time together tonight as we learn more about you and what we are to do as representatives of you. We honor you and we trust you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I know some of you have had an opportunity to do some little things on Sundays. So let's just talk about that just slightly, as how was your first time going, and give us a little overview of what happened for you and what you thought. Maybe what you thought and maybe what happens might not be the same thing. So, anybody to share anything with us?
Well, I went back for, was someone else talking?
Go ahead. Yep.
I went back for the first time, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, for the counting. And of course, that was the first time that I had been in that room. And I think I told Mickey, I actually felt kind of intimidated. I'm sitting there at the table with this money and envelopes and a police officer sitting behind me. But it was just something that it was a different experience. But what I was impressed with was the level of professionalism that I witnessed back there. I mean, the people who've been doing this, they have a system and they worked it to professional T. And that I was really, I mean, I didn't think otherwise, but just to witness how they really conducted the business of the church with excellence, and that was impressive.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say, I really enjoyed the sermon that you preached this Sunday, and you know, always when you go home and you sit and you think and you have retrospect on you know, the word, and it just resonated with me and all the things that are going on. So I've just been more active and speaking out and talking to people, you know, like whenever, like I had a doctor's appointment and just trying to strike up a conversation and letting people know, do they really see what's going on in the political realm? And sometimes, you know, they want to talk and sometimes they won't. Sometimes they're in agreement and sometimes they're in disagreement. But I just know that as a Christian, we have a responsibility to let them know really what's going on. Because, you know, sometimes I think they've been blindsided and they don't see, or they've been, you know, lied to. We know that the Pharaoh has told a lot of lies. So that's I don't know. That was just my experience. I had an appointment today, and you know, so I said something.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I kind of ditto what Edie said, our sister Edie, about the professionalism, you know, for one who has been already a part of this ministry. But, you know, and I think about like counting money at the bank is different from counting this money, because I think about the things that God demands. Just like going through, we're like reading through the first books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and going through what God demands. And, I think about that as far as our ties and how we handle things within the church. There's a certain way that God demands that we should handle his church. So it's an awesome responsibility. I'm just looking forward to, being more involved in it as, we go on throughout these months.
Well, thank you. And it is an awesome responsibility. And, I want to say to you that we didn't take this lightly to invite you to come. We want people who are serious about God, first of all. That's what I really want, people who are serious about God. And we're going to share what I believe God is calling us to do and to be as a church. And we need partners to do that. I can't do it by myself, and so we want people who will see this as a spiritual opportunity to make a difference. Anyone else? Any other new persons like to comment? Monica, we asked that, I think most of you have gone upstairs now, and just want to just kind of talk about what that experience has been for you, your initial thoughts and experience.
I haven't spoken up yet, so I will. I agree with what has been said already. Very professional. The counter and the checks and balances are all there. It's pretty comforting that that's how it's done, and it's impressive. And so everybody's counting everything down to the correct dollar. We're all signing off on it. Everybody is watching it. It's being entered. Patrick is an amazingly patient person as he's going through, and like one of the numbers were off slightly, and they went through every single number, checking every single thing to figure out where the mistake was, and it was very well done.
Thank you.
I agree. The process, they have it down to a science. There are checks and balances, and everything's out on the table, and everything's accounted for.
So this is one of the things that, through this process, as we said, all of you have been involved at Rodman in various capacities. This is a different level of capacity. And so we wanted you to begin to see the different level. And what we're going to do, we're going to expand on and build on a foundation that we already have. So really, again, excited to have you all with us. It's a learning process. And it's going to be learning for all of us, because we're going to make some changes, some things that we want to update and upgrade to help us to reach this current congregation, this current world that we're living in. It's not the same as that we used to live in. It would never go back to what it was, I don't believe. And so we have to be relevant as a church body. And so some of the things that we are doing, we're trying to center down on a central message. So what I'm doing now, as I was saying earlier, I'm providing Bible studies based on the sermon that we preach on Sunday, a full week of devotionals, a full week of study questions, putting out some little videos for us, and so that we can centralize our message to our congregation, but also to our family members and others that we are trying to win to Christ. Because that's the number one object of us being in the body of Christ, is to win other people to the body of Christ, so that all of us then can have that eternal place called heaven. So that's our great responsibility. The responsibility of the trustees is to help me and to help us be able to carry out the mission, carry out the vision of the work that God has called us to do. So I'm going to go back now to our PowerPoint that we left off on. And what I'm going to also do, I'm going to send you, and I'll make some copies. I'm going to send you some books or some information on some books that I've been using for us to begin to look at what our perspective is as we look at leading this church as trustees. Some of the thinking that we've had has been antiquated. When I say the word we, it's me too. I've been slow to kind of take on to this virtual stuff. I was in a church Monday in Chicago, a men's meeting, and they have 4,000 people that watch them. Pastor Jones, my church in Charlotte, said he has 5,000 people that watch them. So what we have been doing is limiting ourselves to who comes through the door, rather than opening ourselves up that the church is not just the people who sit in the sanctuary, but it's a larger group that we have to attract and minister to. And that's one of the challenges that I'm working on as a pastor, and one of the challenges that I want you as trustees to help us to work on, to change our thinking about what the church really is. Now, one of the things that was very interesting to me, and I already knew it, but when the pandemic happened, we all discovered that the church was not the building, didn't we?
Yes.
Would you say that? Would that be an honest thing to say, that we all discovered that the church was not the building?
Absolutely.
Why would we say that? What gave y'all that impression?
How long did we stay out of the building? And we had the hardest working pastor going. You ministered every day, yeah. But everything was virtual. So it didn't matter that we weren't, it matters. You want to be in communion with everyone, but we were able to get together and to have church virtually. So, we're just doing everything by Zoom, and then having the service by Zoom. We were out of the church for basically 2 years.
Yeah, over 2 years. Absolutely. Yeah. And so that was evident then that the church are the people.
Absolutely.
Anybody else want to comment on that as we?
Well, I guess, of course, I knew all along that was the case, but because that's basically all we knew, going to church in the building of the church Sunday after Sunday. So as that started not to happen, it really brought home more the fact that the traditional church as we know it's going to have to change. I think about, I thought about when my father used to be in the church years and years ago, superintendent of a church, a little small church or whatever, and how they did things. And then I thought about that was in the past. So when you think about having something like a pandemic come along and just throw a wrench in everything that we traditionally known as the church, I thought that is God's telling us that it's time to make a change. He's not going to change, but it's time for his people to make a change on how they minister and how they perceive the church body to be, because everything else is changing around us. So we have to accommodate and be adapting.
Excellent. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Go ahead.
To piggyback off of that, we're supposed to be all things to all people, and everybody's getting their content online, whether it's good content or bad content. Everybody's getting it online, and that's where they are. So we have to meet them where they are.
Thank you. Absolutely. Anyone else?
I was just going to say, I think we've seen the church grow, or I know you've seen the church grow, and some of the contributions are coming from the people that we've never seen are in the building. And it was a rude awakening, that we need to reach out. And some of the ministries that he developed was because of that, and how we were able to meet other people. And the things that you did, or the things that Rodney did, we've seen people coming to the church. And there's still a lot of people out there that, like you said, will never set foot, but they're still a part of the body.
Mm,
So
Mhm.
it's growing.
absolutely.
Mhm. Pastor,
Absolutely. Go ahead. Mhm.
another thing that the pandemic taught me was, I used to think about how will the gospel be preached all over the world,
Mm,
all over the world. But when the pandemic struck, we found out how far reaching your ministry can be. It doesn't, we think of our church as being the building, but then there are people out there that were not even, some of them weren't even in the country that were looking at Rodman and, sending an offering. So a lot of them were out of state. So the ministry can be so far reaching now, and we never really would have imagined it had not the pandemic happened and forced us into, doing things virtually.
absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else?
Even the way that the different ways that you can give, virtually, or I mean, I'm still old school and I still, write a check and put my offerings in, but there are other channels, that you can use to give your offering. So there's no excuse if you really want to give or you really want to participate. You don't have to be present in the building.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Any of our current trustees comment? Monica, Sharon, or Verona?
No, I
Well,
think they've
I
covered
could,
everything.
yeah, I think he did, but I could say that, through the pandemic, when the pandemic started, and it was just me and Pam, and Pat would come sometimes, and we would listen to you, what I mean, because it was like, and everybody say, "Where you going, Nikki?" Because I would leave work and I come over to the church. And I said, I'm just going to go I'm going to church. And they said, "You're going to church?" And I said, "Yeah." Or they would walk into my office and they hear church and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but what's that on?" And I said, "Oh, he's on YouTube, or he's on, he's here, there, and everywhere." And my girlfriend, she called from Atlanta, said, "I swear I just seen your pastor on, this channel, and I said, "That was him." So, and they're like, "Well, what do you do when you go over there?" I said, "I listen to church, and then I'll sit there and I'll come once he get done and say something about the offering. I do the offering." You know what I mean? As if, you know what I mean? Because I wanted to, it's like, it was good for me because, you know what I mean? It was like I was really there worshiping with you all, but it was just like in the church, but nobody was really there in the church but me. And Pam was in her office, but I think that when you started, then you started on Cash App, then you started Venmo, then you start here, and then you're like, wow. So like when we're training the new trustees, we're like, this is just what's in the building. You know what I mean? This is not what people are sending, through the devices or whatever. It's, I call it, this is just money that's in the building that came through the building in the church. This isn't the whole church. And that's why we call it the offering. You know what I mean? It's the whole offering of everything when we get everything together. So I said, so what you see here, don't get, like, down, like, you got all these people here at church today, but it doesn't look right on the table. But on the table, that's just what it is. So like Monica, so I said to Monica on Sunday, you said 30, 40, 100-fold. Please, Lord, give to this offering. I said, look like he heard you, because what was on the table was a whole lot more. But I said, but it'll be more than when we get it again. So I think that, different ways that for offering and to reach people, period, not just about the offering, but about the word, you know what I mean? About the, because I was like, you had said something on Sunday about Pharaoh and how he doesn't really listen and he does this, that, and the other. So I couldn't get it all. So it was, I am just so happy that I can always come back home and I listen to it again. You know what I mean? And then I'm in here getting happy. My grandson walks in and said, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm listening to," and he said, "You listen to the church?" I said, "Yes." I said, he was like, "Sorry," but I had to listen to it again. So, like you said, even with the, because I looked for the things that you said was going to be on there, but I did not remember you said it'd be on there today.
Mhm.
But once you listen to it, and then you do want to go back. I mean, I know I do. I do want to go back and see, like, read it for myself. Where do you get that at? And how does it pertain to me? And how can I help my church and my sisters and my brother achieve what, this vision is, and how we can keep going, because we get ready to have a rough time ahead of us.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's good.
Thank you.
All that stuff is good.
Rona, can you join us?
Are you talking to me?
Rona,
Oh.
you know how to get off that mute?
I'm just having a hard time talking today. My voice is gone.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh man. Here.
All right. So what I wanted, and the reason I wanted to bring that up is because things are different now. I remember, and certainly Mickey will remember. I remember when I first brought up the idea of us doing something electronic with the kiosk and things of that nature. Some people say, "Oh, that ain't gonna never work. People ain't gonna do that," and yada 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 yada. Some churches closed during the pandemic because they didn't have a way for people to give. I also remember this, that God spoke to me and said that we were going to be around the world. Okay. I didn't know how that was going to take place. The pandemic forced me to learn how to do it. I never thought that we could be on YouTube. I thought that cost money. I didn't know. And when God spoke to me and said they're going to put me on television, a week later, that's when the guy Tom McGuff came from the Cornerstone TV and said God said to him to put us on television at no cost to us. The only cost that we have to prepare, the tape, and we pay somebody to do that. Verona's mother in particular, and I always use this as an example, her mom would watch me religiously. Her mom watched it every week and got her sister, her mom's sister, watching it every week as well. So the impact that we are making is not just in the house, the physical location. So we learned through the pandemic, and as Edie said, we already knew it, but sometimes it has to come down to us that the church is much larger than what we see in the building.
Right.
And so we got to find ways to be able to minister and help people who are not in the building as well. So those are some of the things that we want to talk to you as trustees, how we want to change how we collect money, how we ask for money. Those are some things that we're going to have to talk about. One of the things that I want to say is that at one time, charitable giving was like at 55% that was going to churches. That number now is going down. We are competing with other organizations, not churches. We're competing with other organizations for the charitable funds. They want to know that their resources, what is happening on the back end of the resources. And so those are the kind of things that we are going to talk about. Now, what I want to share with you all now is that we are in our 140th year. Okay, we're in our 140th year, and I'm going to send this to you all, but I want to share with you what we are doing for the year and some things that the trustee ministry will have to help us to carry out. So first of all, our theme for the year is Faith Alive in 25. Okay, every year, trustees, I come up with a theme. Now, sometimes I try to rap, I'm a rapper or whatever. So Faith Alive in 25. But one thing that you will know about me is that I'm a man of faith. I believe in faith. Faith is what has gotten me to where I am right now. For me to wear this shirt that I got here, it was faith for me to go. I ain't had no money, didn't know how to do it. Okay. So Faith Alive in 25. Hope, yearly theme scripture is now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. We are celebrating 140 years of God's faithfulness, 1885 to 2025. Also, we're celebrating 15 years of Pastor Kennedy being the senior pastor of the Rodman Street Church. And again, I'm gonna send you all what I'm giving you now.
Okay.
So the overview, we are celebrating 140 years again, and 15 years of Pastor Kennedy. Every 5 years, we celebrate these high times in the life of our ministry. So we go all out every 5 years. So when I came to Rodman 15 years ago, Rodman was celebrating 125 years. Okay, that was a milestone for the church. And so what we did 5 years later, we celebrated my first 5 years, and the church's 130th year. But the next 5 years was 2020. That's when we had the pandemic. So we were unable to celebrate my 10th year anniversary or the church's 135th anniversary. We were unable to celebrate it because of the pandemic. So now it has been 10 years since we had a high level of celebration for the church and the pastor. Now we every year, certainly we say this was Rodman's 139th, Pastor Kennedy's 14th or whatever, but every 5 years we do what we call a higher time of celebration. So that's the year that we're in right now. We would like, and so what we're gonna do this year, we're gonna have a souvenir booklet where people can give ads, auxiliaries, ministries can give ads, and so on and so forth. We're going to try to get some corporate sponsors and people who are not here to celebrate our church's 140th and our pastor's 15th. Some people may give and say on their page they only going to talk about the 140th anniversary of the church. Other people are only going to talk about the 15th anniversary of the pastor, and other people will combine them. Okay, so that's one of the things that we're going to do this year for the church. And of course, all the proceeds over and beyond what it costs for us to print the books will go to the church. So what we want to do, we're celebrating 140 years. We want to get all the ministries and auxiliaries involved, and we will also make ads available for other churches, corporations, and businesses. And of course, the proceeds then will go to the ministry. We're asking members to give $1 a year or $140 over and beyond their regular giving. That's something that we just ask people to do. Some people do it, some people don't do it. And what we are doing, we're going to give them an opportunity to do it throughout the year. Okay. Some people can write a check right now for all of it. Some people, it takes them a little time or what have you, but we want to keep that in front of the people. Okay. And what we're going to do, one of the things that my predecessor did, he had a lot of sons and daughters in ministry. A whole bunch of them became pastors and so on and so forth. So what we want to do, we want to tie in our past with our present. So we're going to have some nights during the year where we're going to have 2 fabulous Friday night services. Now, those of you who've been here a long time, when I first came, we used to do Friday night service, not every Friday, but we did them more on a consistent basis. And I called it Fabulous Friday Nights. And we'll have, a worship service, and we will invite guests or what have you. So what we're going to do, we're going to do 2 of those this year centered around this. We're going to have more than that, but 2 of them will be centered around bringing some of our sons and daughters back to Rodman who live in Pittsburgh, to bring them back to Rodman. Probably 3 of them will preach. We'll probably, give them like 20 minutes each or what have you on a Friday night celebration. I'll tell you when those dates are. Then we will have the initial sermon of 3 ministers in training on Friday, March 21st. Now, I'm telling you this is a part of what we're trying to do for the 140th and the pastor's 15th anniversary, but also these are services that trustees have to be at, because we're going to collect money and do other things throughout that. And the trustees not only to be there to count money, but also to show leadership in being participating in these particular services. Also, we're going to have our current sons and daughters, 7 of them, to do the 7 last words on Good Friday at 12 noon. So everybody, and I'm just sharing this with you, everybody who's a minister at Rodman, will not preach on a Sunday morning. Okay, that's not going to happen. So I want to give them opportunities either to teach a Bible study or what have you, or as we're going to do with this particular thing. Again, I'm going to send all of you this. On Fabulous Friday, May 2nd, we're going to have our first one with Sons and Daughters, number 1 of Rodman Missionary Baptist Church at 7 p.m. That is the weekend of the marathon. That Saturday and Sunday, the church will be closed. We're not going to have anything at the church that Saturday and Sunday. So that Friday night, that Fabulous Friday night, will also serve as our communion night, because that's leading up to the first Sunday. Now, we normally don't collect as much money on another night than we do on a Sunday morning. So we have to capture that time. So we're going to use that as a time to have 3 of our former sons and daughters, or 3 or 4, I'm trying to debate on that, to come and to minister on that night. We have some music in between, probably be, hour and a half, hour and 45-minute service that night. No worship service due to the marathon, okay? Then we're going to have what we're calling the 140th anniversary weekend, Saturday and Sunday, May 18th. On that Saturday, we're going to do a Motown review concert with Rodman, Life Male STEAM Academy, and the community members. We have people singing out of the community at Obama High School. Saturday, May 17th, the concert proceeds will go to the Life Male STEAM Academy. Tickets will be $20. We're using that as an outreach of what we've been doing with the Community of Hope Vision. That Sunday, the 18th, we're going to have our 140th anniversary worship service at 9 a.m. And I've invited Dr. Gregory Moss. Dr. Moss is a good friend of Rodman, a good friend of Pastor Page, and also a great friend of mine out of North Carolina. So we're going to have multiple events that are going on that weekend centered around the Community of Hope Vision, trying to include people from our past, people from Rodman, people from the school, and people from the community. Then we're not going to do anything big between June and July around these events. So we're going to have the 15th Pastoral Anniversary Luncheon at the Fairmont Hotel on Saturday, August 23rd, between 1 and 4 p.m. The tickets are around $75. So we're going to give members an opportunity to begin to buy their tickets. Our goal is to have at least 200 people to come to that event. The 15th Pastoral Anniversary Worship Service will be on the following day, August 24th, Sunday morning. We'll have a guest speaker. 140th, then we're going to have, we've been doing this the last couple of years. We've been going out to the park in the North Hills. It was not available on a Sunday this time. I guess we waited too late or what have you. So we're going to do what we call 140th anniversary celebration in the park on Friday, August 29th. That is, we want it to be a fun day, not a church day, a fun day, not preaching or anything, and a party atmosphere. Labor Day is leading up to Labor Day. Back to school celebration, we can, bless kids with book bags and things of that nature. But we want it to be a party atmosphere, to have fun. I mean, just a fun night. We'll have a DJ, people can dance and so on and so forth. And we're going to do that as a part of our celebration. Then on Saturday, September the 13th, we want to do our Operation Inasmuch. We haven't done that really since the pandemic, but that's the day where we all come together and we do mission work, mission work out in the community. And so we want to do that Saturday, September 13th. And then on that Sunday, I want to do what I'm calling a faith walk for the Delanoa Page Scholarship Fund. On Sunday, September 14th, right after worship, we'll go down to Highland Park, and all the proceeds that we would get from that will go to the scholarship fund. So in other words, Mickey will say that she's going to walk 5 miles, and people will give Mickey so much for every mile or what have you. So we're going to put that together. I have a church in Jacksonville. They do a scholarship walk, and Pastor said they might raise $20,000, getting people, and people go out and walk. And so we're going to go to Highland Park, and we're going to walk, We want to put that together. We want all the proceeds to go to the Delano Page Scholarship Fund. Now, when I first came to Rodman 15 years ago, a lady came to me, I'm not going to say her name, and she said, we do baby contests, you know, and she said, what do you think about that to raise money? I knew when she said it, I wasn't going to do it, but I said, let me think about it. That's what I told her. And so I came back and I said, let's do a scholarship campaign, and let's do it in honor of our former pastor. And our goal at that time was $100,000. Well, now I just saw it the other day, we're over $400,000 in that account. Okay, praise God for that. So we want to contribute. This faith walk gives us a chance to exercise, gives us a chance to fellowship and all of that. But we want to raise some proceeds to go into that scholarship fund. We want to be intentional this year with the trustees in getting people to contribute to our scholarship fund so that we can continue to bless the young people. And the reason that I want to name it after Pastor Page was that his legacy will live on in generations that we haven't even been born yet. So the legacy will live on through them. So that's why we started that scholarship fund. And again, I got record the other day that it's over $400,000. And our goal is to get it up to $1 million. So we want to keep working on it. You know, I think we said 500, but we want to continue to work on it to get it up there. And we can do that. On Friday through Sunday, September 26th through the 28th, we're going to have what we call the History Museum celebrating 140 years. I just use this as an example that we will have the Thurston years, the Boyd years, the Page years, the Kennedy years. And we'll have it set up in the lower auditorium where people can bring memorabilia that they have at home. We're not going to keep what they have at home if they don't want to turn it in, but we want to take pictures of it. We want to document it as a part of the history of Rodman Street Church. So that Friday night, the 26th, we're going to have our second night with our sons and daughters. Number 2, we have about three of them will preach again at 7 o'clock. Then we'll go down and look at the museum. The museum will be open all day Saturday. And then after church on Sunday, the museum will still be there for people to go and walk through. We have a great, rich history at Rodman, and we want people to see the work that we've done. Now, I want to say this, we are not bragging. We're just testifying about the goodness of God. And when people see where their resources are going to make a difference in the lives of people, it makes a difference in the attitude and spirit of the church. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm going to email you this, but that's an overview of what we're trying to do in 2025 for our anniversary and pastor's anniversary. Let me answer any questions that any of you may have about that. Thorough?
Pastor,
Go ahead.
I wonder why we're only having one book. I would think we would need 2 souvenir books, one that highlights you and what you've done, and one for the church. It seems that
nope, I'm the pastor of the church. It's one big book, and all of it is a part of what we're doing. So I don't want to separate it. We want everything to be together because I'm the pastor of the church. So it is my 15th anniversary, and we'll have pages in there for both. So yep. It's one book, and all the proceeds go to Rodman. Anything that's over and beyond what we're spending. So we can't separate. We don't want to separate the year. It just so happened to be on a high year that we want to celebrate Rodman. At the same time, we want to celebrate what I've done here. Other questions? Thank you, Verona. It's going to be hard to get one big book, so we get 2. Anybody else? Is any of that exciting?
I like the idea of the prayer of the walk, and raising funds with that. I think that's a great idea.
Question about the Ain't As Much. I know in the past there was a group that was helping people fix houses and whatnot, or go around and do repairs to people's places.
Yes.
And I think they had to start beforehand because I couldn't get all done on that day. What's the situation with that ministry, and would that be part of Inasmuch this year?
Well, I think that if I'm not mistaken, I think James Burke used to lead that effort, if I'm not mistaken. So we need to find it, because I think you participated with that yourself. So we may do that again. So we need to talk about that. That's a good point, because you can't wait till that day for that. And so what we did some minor work for people's houses or what have you, or members of the church or what have you. So if you want to do that again, Carl, you might be able to help to lead that effort. But I know that James Burke was one who helped to lead it in the past.
Yeah, I think that's rewarding. And I was just part of that one project, but I know he said that he had a bunch of different projects where you go around and like fix some minor stuff around people's houses for the church. And I think that's it's real hard to get a handyman. I pretty much own every tool and know how to do most stuff, so I don't mind stopping by somebody's house and fixing some stuff that would been causing their problems or cost too much money for them to get fixed otherwise. Even if that ministry was more than just one thing, like to get something up like that going, because I think we need to do a better job serving. And not even just the church, that might lead somebody to church. If somebody just randomly comes by their house and fixes some stuff, I think they'll ask what makes you different, and that can get somebody into church.
I think that's a great idea, sir. And that's what I'm saying. We got to start thinking outside the box. It could be something that's ongoing, not just that particular day. So I think it's a great idea, and we want to follow up on that. I'm taping this, so we're going to follow up on what you just said, so that we can look at that. But that's a great idea, and I think we need to continue to look at that, because we have members who need it, and as you said, there may be a way to draw people to the church. We've had people to join Rodman simply by how we treated their family during a funeral. We've had people to become a part of Rodman. One lady who came to new members class on this past Saturday, she came to see her niece, I don't even know who her niece is, dance, do the mime a few weeks ago. And she said the Lord just spoke to her and said, this is where you need to be. So you never know, as you were saying. And one of the things that I want to do with that, and we're going to get into that, is that we got to tell those types of stories. Yeah. What kind of impact would that be for somebody to say, hey, these persons from Rodman came over and they fixed my kitchen floor? Yeah. What kind of impact would that be on the video for people to say, well, wow, my tithes and my offerings are going to help somebody on the back end? So
yeah, plus we can have a sign up list where people are signing up and putting jobs. We have to select which ones we could do, but that sign up list could be an outreach, as in like they're giving us their name, their information, and that could be a way to reach them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that'll be an area in the trustee ministry. We're going to talk about your spiritual gifts, but that's an area in the trustee ministry that you can help us, to lead up.
And I think that would be something easy to get sponsored. I mean, I wouldn't even mind sponsoring some of that, even like the projects I couldn't work on. Like, I think we could get somebody to sponsor somebody like us going out and doing work. Like, I think we could get a corporate sponsor for fund some of these projects. Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of stuff is easier to sponsor than just sponsor a dinner or sponsor this church and everything. But like, you're going and you're fixing people's stuff for free. I think people would sign up for that. We could have official Rodman shirts. We could put our sponsors on there. The other people also contributing to this are, we put the stuff on, and that's how we sell it to them.
Sure. Again, I think those are great ideas, and that's why we are trying to expand the trustee ministry. People will have some additional ideas. So thank you so much. Absolutely. Anybody else?
Yeah. Thank you, Carl, for your idea. But I've often wondered, do we have an index of people who have businesses in the church, so that we would know, that we have X, Y, and Z, who do handyman work, or plumbers who are at Rodman. So if I have an issue at my home, I'm able to have some reference to people that I may know.
We have worked on that in the past. That'd be a good little ministry for you to help.
Well, I mean,
I would I would have loved to do that though.
Yeah, Pam
I
had
think
mentioned
that's
something.
valuable.
I'm sorry.
No. I just think that's valuable information for, church members to have.
Pam
Absolutely.
had mentioned a digital directory for the church. I mean, that could easily be a section in it. Businesses and like if we have a digital directory, because I don't know where that status is of that, but Pam was telling me about it. It seemed like a really good idea to have a digital thing instead of printing out the book. Everybody can upload the pictures and all that, but there could easily be a section for Rodman businesses.
I like that. Yep, hadn't thought about that. So yeah, let's write that down. I think that'd be very good. We did a little something the last couple of years about Black businesses that we tried to celebrate when we went out to the park. But I think that we need to know who does what within the church, so we can support them, but also utilize their gifts. Everybody is not going to be able to stand up in front of the congregation and do stuff, but they might be a hell of a painter, or, Edie had a brother who's deceased now. They said he could paint without a drop cloth, and no paint would get on there. If I didn't have a drop cloth, it'd be paint all over the. But that's how good he was. So you got people, in the church who have gifts, and we don't, we're not utilizing them. So I think it's a great idea. I think you even get more people interested in participating if you allow, them to be able to do those types of things. So I think it's but both of those are great ideas. Anyone else? Thank you.
So then we're gonna work on a new book, like the old, that'll be coming up. The book.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a little different than how we've done in the past. We think about doing it different, thinking about doing it digitally. But yes, I didn't put that on the sheet that I just gave to you all. But yes, we're gonna do a new book because we haven't done one 7-8 years, probably since 2018, maybe, or maybe 2017. So, of course, we didn't do one during the pandemic, and we haven't done one since then. So I know we haven't done the last 5 years because that was the pandemic. So we want to do that, to update it. One of the things that we have not done a good job of is making sure that we have everybody's cell number and addresses and so on and so forth so that we can send out these mass things. Verona keeps working on it, but we got to continue to get our database, together so that we can do that and grab people who, like you all said, who are not necessarily coming to the church, but something that we may do for them may then lead them to the work that we're doing. That's all a part of the Community Hope vision. Anybody else? Thank you. These are the kind of things we need to percolate, some things that you all may have been thinking about. We want to try to implement those things so that the trustees then can have a larger role in carrying out, the overall vision of what we believe God is calling us to do. Anybody else on that? Share my screen again. And again, I'm going to send you all what I just went over with you about the 140th and the 15th pastoral anniversary. So this is what we left off last time for the last minutes that we have tonight. We're going to go to 9:30. I talked about, and we want to keep this before us, the 6 pillars of our Community of Hope vision. We're going to be talking about this because all of the resources that we are trying to garner will help us to carry out the mandate that God has given us. And we're doing it through what we call the Community of Hope. With those 6 areas: spiritual, physical, recreational, educational, social, economic, and employment, and health and wellness. And I've already gone over this, the mission statement, our goals, our strategic focus of our church is to uplift the people in our church and our community through meeting their spiritual needs, generating physical and recreational opportunities, engaging in educational support, providing social and entertainment venues, creating employment and economic development opportunities, and offering mental and emotional well-being support through the 6 pillars, which lay the foundation of our vision. And the outcome would be the creation of what we call the Rodman Village. That's what we want to do. We want to to garner all of these 6 areas to help us to carry out what we believe will eventually be called the Rodman Village. And we got plenty of stuff to build up on. And what we said now, the trustee ministry, number 1, is a spiritual job, a spiritual ministry, spiritual factors and outreach, because as Carl said a few moments ago, these are opportunities for us to reach out, not just inwardly. So churches grow when they have a New Testament aim. The aim of the church is to go and make disciples of all people, and that's the Matthew 28:19. Churches grow best when they offer effective Bible teaching programs, evangelism, baptism, and teaching. One of the things that we are doing now, we're trying to center down our messages on Sunday, and I'm going to send that to you. The messages on Sunday, and it will go throughout the week. As Mickey was saying, she went home able to look back at it, but also it allows us to minister to our family members and others. And, you know, now a lot of us have meetings that we do online with family members in Zoom and so on and so forth. So churches grow best when they offer effective Bible teaching programs. So one thing about Rodman, it is a teaching congregation. Mm-hmm. Spiritual factors and outreach. Churches grow when they aim to carry out the Great Commission by showing compassion to the needs of people. That's what Carl was just talking about, and Ray Nail was just talking about, showing compassion to meet the needs of people by having a vision of what God can do for the lost, by bringing the lost to hear the gospel, by sharing their Christian experience with the lost, by communicating the gospel to all people, and by persuading the lost to accept the gospel. Now, what I always say to us, none of us can save anybody. That's not our job, and we are not capable of doing it. It is God's job to save people. It's his job to do that, okay? So churches grow by personal soul winning. I can preach till I'm blue in the face, but there are some people I can't reach like you can reach because you have relationships with them. Churches grow by a program of evangelism. We got to be intentional about reaching out to try to win people to Christ. Churches grow through public preaching and teaching. So we're doing that certainly in our pulpit. We also do that through our social media platforms, through our television program. Churches grow by prayer and biblical conviction. Pray that the lost would be convicted. Pray that God will use the preaching word to accomplish his purpose, and pray for spiritual growth and revival, and pray for changed lives. So prayer is a main component of what we need to do as trustees. We need to pray for the vision, pray for the mission, pray that we can win souls to Christ. That is very important. Natural factors and outreach. Churches grow who project an aggressive image. I am extremely aggressive. We have to have an aggressive image that we believe that God is going to use us to make a difference, not only in our church, but all throughout the city and across the world, to boldly go where no one has gone before. So we are not limited by what we've never been able to do. When I think back and hear about the old Rodman Street Church, the building, they said it seated 2,200 people. That was massive to have that kind of church at the early part of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and then it was, you know, it was burned down. So we got to boldly go where no one has gone before. Growing churches determine what clientele they can reach. The friends of regular attendees. You invite somebody. It's not my job or your job to save them, but we invite them. I've been saying this statement: an excited member invites others. The relatives of regular attendees. Again, we've gotten people through how we treated their loved one when they were sick or when they died or what have you. Neighbors who are surrounding the church. Visitors who drive a distance to the church, and new residents to the community. Couples, singles, senior citizens, young adults, college students, and we call that frangelism. That's friends and relationships and so on and so forth. Growing church is determined to reach every person in the community. How can we do that? It's not a one shop fits all. So there are various things, what Carl was talking about earlier, various things that we might be able to win people to Christ. I saw a guy come the other day. He's in two fraternities that I'm in, and unfortunately, he didn't know that I was the pastor of Rodman Street Church. He came to Rodman Street for our scholarship thing. His daughter's a senior in high school. I walked in. He said, "Oh, you go to this?" He said, "You coming to the scholarship thing too?" I said, "No, I'm the pastor here." He said, "Man, I never knew you were the pastor at Rodman." He goes to a church on the hill, I think Ebenezer or whatever, but he didn't know who I was. I think he goes to Central. He didn't know what I did, other than he might have heard me calling me Dr. Kennedy. So growing churches use every effective advertising media possible. Okay, T-shirts, as Carl said earlier, radio, television, and so on and so forth. But we got to set some goals to grow. It ain't gonna just happen. We set goals to grow. Organizational as a factor of church growth. Spiritual factors of organization. Churches grow when they meet the biblical qualifications for a church. Churches grow when their leaders are truly called and led by God. That's why we are praying for you in this ministry. I didn't just haphazardly chose you. We are praying, okay? Churches grow when lay people are in their proper places of responsibility. Growing churches allow the pastor to exert or to use his leadership. That's what a growing church does. It has to be a leader of the congregation. Growing churches have workers who assist the pastor through service, prayer, and encouragement. Growing churches are organized to meet the needs of the congregation. Growing churches employ qualified people to carry the work forward. So it's very important what kind of staff people we have. Growing churches can pinpoint their needs to best solve the problems. Growing churches build loyalty to the organization, are measured by attendance, financial support, and member involvement, and are reflected by expansion of buildings. Leadership as a factor. Growing churches have a leader that's called by God. Gotta be. Can't do spiritual work without being spiritual. Growing churches have effective leaders who display biblical spirituality. Growing churches see the power of God working through their leaders, and growing churches share the vision of their leaders. So we're going to be constantly telling you about this vision and how we got to come together to carry it out. I am the visionary, but you are a vision carrier. That means that you have gifts and talents that God is assembling here to help us to carry out his vision. I don't have all the answers. I can't do it all. The reason we started that lay ministry, now we got about almost 90 people in it, is because of the fact that the pastor can't do it alone. That's why we started that ministry, because some people can minister to people that I can never reach, or staff can never reach. Spiritual factors continue. Growing churches have leaders who have several spiritual gifts. And I want to thank all of you for filling out the spiritual gift component. We're going to, Sister Edie and we're going to talk to you all about, I think she may have already given you what your top 3 were. You gave it to her. And we have a spiritual alignment sheet that will help you to operate in those gifts and maybe in those ministries. Now, everybody's not going to be in their top place where you're going to be. However, we want to try to line you up to help us in those areas of the church, to the best of our ability. So we're going to talk about that as we move forward. Growing churches have leaders who aggressively obey the commands of Christ, of Christian service. Growing churches are the result of the faith of their leaders. Growing churches have leaders who are spiritually mature. So spirituality has to be a major point. That's why I'm giving you all these Bible studies and things from the message so that we can be on one accord as we are talking about. And one thing that I like to say, I got to preach and teach where I believe God wants us to go. That's where it comes from, the preaching and teaching where God wants us to go. So we need to be spiritually mature. Growing churches employ gifted workers to accomplish the most for God. Realize that effective leadership produces a multiplication of their ministries. So we're not just adding, we want to multiply. That means that we want to get people off the bench to get them actively involved. Just in even hearing things that you all have said tonight in these last 3 sessions, that lets us know that there are a lot of gifted people out there with some great ideas who are just sitting on the bench. Growing churches improve leadership abilities through formal training sessions, as we are doing now. We are teaching churches and have leaders who know and apply the laws of leadership. It's very important. It's what I did my doctoral degree around, was vision and leadership. So I'm a stickler on that, because I believe that if we can develop the vision and have people prepared to carry out their spiritual gifts, then we can be a growing church for God's kingdom. Spiritual factors of discipleship. Growing churches are characterized by people who love God, by people who have commitments and honor them, Thank you all for showing up tonight. Growing churches are characterized by people who pray, by people who know about the word of God, and are characterized by biblical fellowship of its members. So we want to come together. The Bible, now I'm going to tell you a joke. I'm going to tell you something I read or heard, but it's always going to come back to the word of God. I'm going to let you argue and debate with God and not me about that. Growing churches reach people where they are, okay? So we can't be so traditional that we are not meeting people where they are. We got to make up in our mind, everybody ain't coming back to this church physically. I see people in the streets. I say, man, I ain't seen you at church. I see you every Sunday. What the guy told me, you ain't seen me, but I see you. You know, I said, well, we would love to have you in there. Well, man, you know, Reb, I kind of like drinking my coffee and sitting in my pajamas. But he said, so I got to put in my mind, everybody ain't coming back. So how do we continue to minister to them even though they haven't come back? Growing churches spend time and money on those who will respond most readily to the gospel. Have more people making professions of faith, and they have more who can become disciples. So we want to continue to grow. It was powerful 2 weeks ago to have 10 people to be baptized. That was a powerful message. Okay. Growing churches involve new Christians in service. So we want to get people involved. We stress salvation of the whole person. So we're not just trying to meet their spiritual needs, but if I'm hungry and you say, man, I'm praying for you, that didn't move the needle in my stomach. So we got to do the outreach and feed those who are hungry. Growing churches have disciples that assume the attitudes and practices of their leaders. I've been here now 15 years. The church then begins to take on the characteristic of its leader. That's just a natural thing. So the characteristics of faith and the characteristics of believing that God can do anything is who I am. So what we're trying to do now is surround ourselves with people who have that kind of faith. Growing churches realize the power of an informed disciple and realize the power of motivated workers. What are some lessons that we can learn from victory? We got to get back from the victory. We got to get back to basics. Do a few things well, acknowledge the past, and focus on the future. We can't just live in the past. Again, what we talked about earlier tonight is that the church is not going back to what it used to be. It never is. And I've been in other churches who have more members than us, but they're still not seeing the number of people who used to come in the building like they used to. We got to taste some success. We got to taste success, and it begets success. Major on training and assimilation. That means getting people not just coming in the front door, because sometimes as many come through the front door, go right out the back door. So we got to assimilate them. We got to be outward looking and not just looking only about our members. And we have to follow pastoral leadership. Very important that we understand the order that God has. How can a healthy church avoid deterioration? You got to have a healthy pastor. A proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. Focus on preparing the laity to do ministry. Promote the desire to grow. We want to grow. Keep new blood flowing. That's why we're trying to bring some new people in. Okay. Lady said this to me, and I want to say this to you, and you all gonna know who it is. She said, everybody you have on these tithing videos are old people. She didn't use the word old, she said older people. She said, I tithe. I said, wow. So we got to not just use people who we've always used. There are a lot of other people who have gifts, but sometimes we got to bring it out of them. Uncompromising biblical teaching, balance of in-reach and outreach, not just only concerned about what's inside the house, as Carl said, but that can be a way to win people by reaching out to them. And we got to pray fervently. Now, what I want to share with you, the 6 pillars expanded. So what I did, I broke down the 6 pillars: spiritual, physical, and recreation, educational, social, economic, and employment, and health and wellness. So these are the things that we want to provide here. Okay. All right. Under the spiritual, we want to provide spiritual counseling intervention. Now, we do a lot of this. Provide weekly services and Bible studies in Christian leadership. We're doing that. Seek opportunities to build relationships that will open the door to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. We want to collaborate with seminaries and universities. One of the things about Pittsburgh, we have some of the best schools in the country, and we have a seminary right directly across the street. One of the premier seminaries in the country. Physical and recreational. We want to provide housing. Now, I've been talking to you all about trying to get a senior housing on Sheridan. I haven't forgotten that. We want to work on that. We want to provide housing. We want to do some housing out where the school is. So we want to do some things. I've been talking with Patrick, and I kind of talked very briefly. There was a housing apartment complex somewhere in Homewood that needed somebody to take over. But it's some kind of legal litigation. So I've kind of stepped back to see what's going to happen before we get involved. But we would take over the property. They already got funds to fix up the property, but they wanted a Black nonprofit organization or church to take it over. But now we're not doing it right now because, again, there's some legal ramifications that are going on, and I want to make sure that all is handled before we would join. But that would be an opportunity for us to provide housing. Having housing, we can do Bible studies and other things that can lead people to Christ. I want to do transportation and a YMCA. Want to have a sports academy. We do health and wellness academy. Active older adults, youth, and youth development. Want to collaborate with Parks and Recreation, the Housing Authority. The guy that's over the Housing Authority is a member of our church. So we've been kind of talking about how we might be able to get on that property at on Sheridan, how we can do that senior high rise through the Housing Authority. Educational, the school, the Life Male STEAM Academy, to use the school as an opportunity for us to evangelize, to win people to Christ, parents, and so on and so forth, the students. A public library, distance learning center for college and universities, staff development for businesses. We talked about earlier about having knowing who does what in our church. Well, we can have a staff development for businesses, an incubator, leadership development for youth and mentoring, collaborate with school, college, and universities. Social, performing arts center. One thing that I want to build is a performing arts center that we can house and have service in it, but we can also do plays and concerts and other things. Entertainment, dining. Want to have our own restaurants. I've never been in a city this size that don't have many Black restaurants. We can do this. I'm talking about nice scale. Shopping, community forums, studios, makerspace where people can be creative, an art gallery, amphitheater, public safety. Collaborate with city arts council and other agencies. Employment and economics, retail stores. Let's develop some stores. There is no Christian bookstore in Pittsburgh. The Christian bookstore, when I first came, was one out in Cranberry called Cokesbury. That closed. Then there was one in Monroeville. It closed. Think about what we can do if we had a Christian bookstore, Black art. Think about that. I know Edie, she does greeting cards, Black art, Black cards. We can do this. That ain't all about being Black, but I am Black. Can I get some help up in here? We want to do small business incubator, workforce development. I'm in talks right now with CVS about maybe doing a workforce development that we might be able to do over in the building across the street until we do something else with it during the week. We're not using it during the week, but we can train people to get ready for work. Some employment for youth. That's how I started. I got me a little summer job in the summer. So if we can start thinking about how we can provide jobs for young people, a business expo, career development and counseling, financial literacy. We used to have something called a Gospel City Bank for youth, and then we had financial literacy classes. Okay. And finally, health and wellness, a medical center. I want to do some medical center. Now, at our school, we have a clinic where people can come. I was over there the other day. A teacher, he called off that day, and I saw him in the parking lot when I came up, and he had this little one-year-old baby. I said, well, where you going? He said, I'm taking a baby up to the clinic. And he told me the next day, he said the baby had an ear infection. Well, at our clinic, they were able to determine that that the baby had an ear infection and gave the dad a prescription. He's able to go. So we can do everything at that school at our clinic except take x-ray. That's already available to any of you to be able to come. If you have something, you can come, and we can do everything there except take an x-ray. Dan is the registered nurse, but we have a nurse practitioner, and then we have Dr. Conti. A health and wellness conference, satellite medical offices, satellite dental offices, satellite eye clinics. Want to collaborate with medical schools, social services, and organizations. These are the things that we are talking about that we are able to do. But what we need is our trustee ministry to help us to be able to carry it out. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. I just want to give you some things that we've been working on, we've been talking about, and this is what we want to take the ministry to. Any questions now? We'll go to the next slide. Okay. So anchor tenants, we want to do a senior house building. Okay. Want to do a senior. Now, I want to say this, it may not be on Sheridan. It may be somewhere else in the building, in the city, I'm sorry. Okay, it may not be. Corporate offices, meeting and event space. I'm tired of going downtown, spending our money when we can have a nice facility that we can host. You can always rent it out. A health and wellness pavilion. What I'm trying to do at the school is to get boys interested in going into medicine, get them interested in going into engineering and so on and so forth. So you can begin to make it a homegrown and help these young men and their families. So one thing that I learned very early, you can't just go after the boy, you got to go after his family, you got to go after his mama, go out who's raising, grandmama, okay? Retail shops. I would love to have a place when we get out of church, we can go in our own stores. That's what I envision, setting up a place when you walk out of the sanctuary, you can go shopping in our stores. A sportsplex. We got something called the Rodman Outreach Corporation. Many of y'all don't know about that. It's called ROC. It's not active right now, but we can reactivate. That's your outreach arm. A family recreation center. That's a long name for a YMCA. Restaurants. I'm talking about nice restaurants that we can own, or Black businesses can be. Let's say that. Indoor family fun park. Start a Rodman Foundation. Performing Arts Center, 5-star banquet facility, Center for Spiritual Enrichment, misuse housing. So they're not just necessarily just senior housing, but misuse housing. There are no Black middle-class neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. They've done a good job of separating us. It's a city of British, more British in Pittsburgh than any city in the world, but it's used as a separator rather than bringing us together. The Life Mill STEAM Academy. This school is to grow from K to 12. Right now, we're 6th through 9th grade. But when the school gets full K to 12, we might talk about 1,000 boys. That's 1,000 families that we can that we can minister to. Community Engagement Center, University Education Research Complex. Again, I'm gonna send all this to you. Okay, look at this. Now, I want to share this with you. This is a lot of dead space right here that you see. A lot of dead space. The Lord has spoken to me about us building a bigger sanctuary where we are. Okay, either we put it on top of where we are or expand it. But we have a whole lot of space over here and a whole lot of space on the other side for us to be able to expand this facility. At one time, it seated 2,200 people. What we once were, we can be again. But I'm not talking about just building a bigger sanctuary. I'm talking about putting a gym on this side over here so that we can have recreational activities, not only for our young people, but also for our seniors, to have those type of activities that are going on all the time through our ministry. So I want you to look at this. I promise you it's not going to remain what we see right now, but we need you to start thinking about how we can expand this vision. But God spoke to me one morning. I've been praying, and he said, you need to expand your facility. So we're going to work on that. Okay. We're talking about a big wall on the back. We talk about an LED wall. Now, a lot of people are looking at how you make your presentation. Carl Taylor is very particular about the presentation that we are delivering. So we have some things that are outdated right now. Okay. So we're looking at how we can put an LED wall and some other things to enhance our worship experience and technology throughout the buildings.
Like, can I chime in there?
Go ahead.
One thing that we don't have, which we should at this stage, is a lighting rack. I mean, that'll be like professional light rack that goes across with LED cannons that are pointing down. And that way you can have spotlights, you can make certain things dark, you can break it up. That would be controlled by a computer. There'll be somebody back that controls the lighting type stuff, but you'll be able to bring down the other area, bring up the light of the pastor, or if there's somebody, a dancer, you can darken that stuff up. It's dynamic. You'll get much better presentation with the camera. And it will, like, as of right now, we wipe out our own screens with light. We flood that area with light, and it's pretty terrible for filming. And then our screens are all whited out. But lighting cameras with shields on them to shield it from the camera is something that a church at our stage should have at this point.
So those are the things that you can bring to the table. You know, those type of ideas. I agree with you. We got to update and upgrade, for just this present age. It's really funny. So Mrs. Jones, Pastor Jones' wife, died suddenly Thursday. I mean, just out of nowhere, as far as, I've heard. But right now, Friendship, they are out of their $40 million facility. They're putting up screens. They're putting up an LED wall. Because, when Pastor Jones built it, there was no such thing as that. But he understands, in order for them to stay relevant, they got to do these kind of things. So what Carl is saying now, those are the kind of things that we got to start thinking about. So the Lord spoke to me about expanding our sanctuary. So to build it, and what I'm thinking, it may face Rodman Street like it used to, so that we can have a big vestibule and some other things, and the lighting that he's talking about and other things. But I just want you to start thinking. I have the farmer's market. It is my goal to get that farmer's market. It's an eyesore for me. They only come up there once a week on Saturdays. I've only talked to one of the guys. I got to get to the other guys, but what I propose, that we would build something that they can still utilize, but it's not going to look like this. Okay. We want to take over that whole corner. I want to take over the stuff that's behind us. I believe, because we are landlocked right now. I think from what I was told, Rodman had an opportunity to get the property behind us years ago, but didn't do it. I also was told that there was a Sears building with a Home Depot, and it stayed vacant for years. Those were opportunities that we could have expanded the church, could expand our reach. So if we're going to remain in East Liberty, let's buy up what's around us so that we can make this the village. This is a picture of the senior high rise that I would like to do over there on Sheridan, or wherever we do it. This is a shot of the property out at Penn Center East. The Lord spoke to me about acquiring this entire property. Right now it's for sale. There's no for sale sign up, but I know it's for sale. 35 million dollars. Down the hill here, you see, you probably can't see my hand, but down the hill is 30 acres down there that I would like to build. Between those two white towers there, I want to put that Performing Arts Center, the YMCA, put some housing out here. This is what I believe God has spoken to me about doing. That will expand our footprint. Anything that we have out here, like the Performing Arts Center, we'll have church in there. So all the tithes and offerings, all that stuff still comes back to Rodman. It's one offering. It's one place, but we'll have an expanded footprint. The church, if you drive down, and Patrick works right by it, you drive down, it's a church called Grace Life. It's down like you're going towards Murraysville. Patrick, you know what I'm talking about. Well, they just bought the Doubletree Hotel in Monroeville. So they're going to use that for their church and the hotel and all the meeting space. That's what you call thinking outside the box. This Wednesday, Pam, myself, Reverend Talita, and Alton, we're going to Jacksonville, Florida, my hometown. It's a church there called the Potter's House. Well, they bought a mall. They have an $18 million budget. They have a school. They have a bowling alley. They have a restaurant. Those are the kind of things that when you begin to see it, we can do this. So I'm trying to help our leadership team and staff to be able to dream again. So we go into a workshop that's called All Access. They're going to show us how they do their money, how they do, administration, how they do outreach, all of those things. And so we can bring those ideas back. So this property here, God spoke the property to me. I was caught up on that Sears building, but God told me, you're thinking too small. So I want you to see this. I want you to begin to dream and envision how God is going to move in our midst. How I want to develop that property out there is something similar to this, where we have housing at top and retail at the bottom. Think about what the impact that we can make when you come out of church and you can go to your own, to Black businesses and a place that we can live. That's the kind of image that God has given me for the property out there and other places. I drive through Monroeville, Patrick, right behind the post office out there in Monroeville, Verona, I'm talking about. That property is available. Think about that being a Christian retreat center. Think about all the lives that we can change. I even thought about that VA hospital up there by Schumann. I talked to the mayor about it. They own it. They ain't doing nothing with it. We got to think outside the box of how we can make a difference and increase our presence for the kingdom. Think about a beautiful sanctuary like that, Performing Arts Center that we're preaching on a Sunday morning, but Sunday afternoon, Medea will be coming in and saying, hello, Performing Arts Center. And we can have events all year long, supporting our people. This is a school. We want to build a state-of-the-art facility for school. This is what I call it? A center where you have gyms and a field house. I'm sorry, my mind went blank. A field house where we can have tracks inside. We can have basketball and seniors exercising and so on and so forth. A field house, not just for our people, but for the entire city and community. This could be a regional asset. Artificial turf field and track that we can have events. Indoor fun family park. I'm from Florida. I'm used to this. What I want to see. Think about it. Grandmama and granddad in their bowling while Junebug and Shaniqua in their roller skate. And then teamwork makes the dream work. An excited member invites others. Rodman Online Store, Life Mail STEAM Academy, Stewardship, Mission Outreach, Social Media, and Marketing. So this is what you are getting yourself involved with. God has given me a tremendous vision, and we need some tremendous vision carriers to help us to carry it out. And I want to say this, if you can do it yourself, you don't need God. If the vision does not frighten you, then it's not big enough. And if God said do it, the facts, F-A-C-T-S, don't matter. Let me close out. Any questions or comments? And I'm going to send that to you. And I'm going to give you some additional work during the time, because we don't meet again for a month. So I'm going to give you some additional work and some things that I want you to look at as we talk about. So let me answer any question the last couple of minutes that we have. Did I do such a thorough job, or did I scare y'all to death?
Both.
Any comments?
I would just say it sounds like a lot. That's a tall order. So I guess my thought is I'm just trying to get a sense of what contribution could I have for this, or is this is a tall order?
Mhm.
Number one, I'm not just asking y'all to do it. I just want to let you know what the plans are, what I believe God is calling us to do. But we got to get other people involved, of course. But as the trustees, you all will have a major role in this as we carry it out, what I believe God is calling us to do through the ministry. But I'm not asking you all to do it by yourself at all. But I just want to share it with you to let you know that this ain't just you getting up there counting money. In fact, gonna be more money to count than we ever had to count. However, it's more than that. I want to keep the vision in front of you, so that anything that we do, we want to make sure that it's aligning with the vision.
Mhm.
So the trustees and the leadership team, is that two sets of people, two different set of people?
Well,
You said something about the leadership team.
that's the staff.
That's the staff. Okay.
Yep, that's the staff. Mm-hmm. But the trustees are part of the leadership group, the leadership team of the church. But when I was talking about earlier, I was talking about the staff.
Okay.
Yeah, full-time staff. Myself, Talita, Reverend Talita, Pam, Alton, so we have a leadership, a staff team as well. Okay. And Verona works with us.
Mhm.
Others?
Pastor, I love seeing the vision again. It's been a few years, but we reviewed that before. But one of the things that I love seeing it, because when you go to other cities and you go to other these mega churches, you see that it's actually happening at these churches. So I've been to a church that was in a mall, and they have one service right after the other, and people directing you to get out, and so why not? Why not have it here in Pittsburgh? Why not have you be that vision, visionaire for what God has planned for this city? So, I just am excited, I hope I live to see it come into fruition. I just hope I do.
Me too.
Amen.
Amen.
It's exciting.
Yeah. I don't want you to be overwhelmed, but it's not all going to happen tomorrow. but we want to plan for it, even beyond our time. You know, we want to plan for it. But I believe that God called me to this city to do this. I mean, that's what my calling is. And we just need to believe God and work together and get a plan together to carry it out. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but I'm telling you, God spoke this to me, and I want to share it with you. The school came simply because God said we got to save the boys. I ain't had no money, didn't have any expertise, and now we in year number 4. I'm telling you, God spoke what I just shared with you, and even more things, but I can't share it all. But this is an exciting time to be a part of the community of hope, the Rodman Street Church. It's a very exciting time to be a part of it. Any other comments? Sorry, anybody? Am I going too fast? I'm going to send you all some additional information. The next session that we have, we're going to start talking about how we fund the ministry, how we fund it, how we fund the vision. Everything got to be centered around this vision, this community of hope. Raynell and I and several others, we worked for 3 years on developing that. Okay, we put a lot of energy, a lot of time in developing it, or the plan.